Hello, welcome back to Tranquility du Jour, nourishing conversations about living a full and meaningful life with doses of tranquility. This is episode 589. I'm your host, Kimberly Wilson, bringing you tranquility since 2005. So today we're talking with Jolie Dawn, the author of Empowered, Sexy, and Free. Discover your unique brilliance and dare to be the creatrix of your life. So in this episode, you're going to learn what led her to write this book, ways to remove that energetic weight we hold on to, how emotions are a superpower, and more. A gentle reminder to hit subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And there's a link to do so over in the show notes, kimberlywilson.com/589, so that you can do so through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. And a gentle reminder also to head on over to kimberlywilson.com/podcast. So in case you have a request of a topic for the show or you'd like to leave a review of the podcast, would be so grateful. And if you do, I would be happy to send you a little postcard from Paris. So head on over there if you have any ideas on things that you would like to hear about that I have not yet touched on in the past 17 years. Or if you just need a refresher on something. I always love hearing what would be most useful to you, my dear listener. And then if you are new to Tranquility du Jour, a big ol' welcome. And you can find out more about Tranquility du Jour at kimberlywilson.com/new. Now, if you sign up for Love Notes, you will get access to a micro course that walks you through the 5 tenets of Tranquility du Jour, which just gives an overview on what this whole community is about. So again, delighted to have you with us today. Now, a heads up on a few things that are around the corner. One is October 1st. And I will be in Paris, and I'm going to be hosting this live from Paris. And it's a free event that is really about taking your summer wardrobe into fall, your fall signature style, things that I'm noticing in Paris that tend to be kind of trendy or what people are wearing. It's funny. I was there last summer. Well, it was late summer, right? So it was around Labor Day weekend for us Americans. And anyway, I was over there. And the thing that I noticed, everyone had a blazer, like a blazer. Everyone wearing it with shorts, etc. So it was just like, oh, wow, I didn't realize this was a trend. And so it's kind of fun to see and share what I notice when I'm over there. The other thing is October 15th is our next and last virtual retreat of this year. Would love to have you join us. And there is information on this in the show notes. Also on October 16th, I'm going to be launching the 5-week TDJ Lifestyle e-course. Now, this is where we go much deeper into the 5 tenets, which are wellness, mindfulness, creativity, style, and compassion. So if you're interested in that, be sure to join the waitlist because all the scoop will be coming out next week, the following week, the week of the 19th. Also, be sure to save the date for November 14th, the Hip Tranquil Chick Sweet 16 birthday celebration, a free event I hope you can join. And everyone who registers will get a replay. So be sure to head on over to the link in the show notes. Join us for that. And really, it's just a way to celebrate 16 years since his first book came out. And I know that's how many of you found Tranquility du Jour. And then last but not least, on the 12th of December is our holiday pop-up. And this is something that I like to do annually and a fun way to discuss okay, how do we find tranquility in the holiday season when it's quite hard? And I'll also be giving a little insider peek into the Coterie, my signature year-long program that will open late 2022. So after this event, the registration will open for the Coterie and would love to have you with us. All right. So that's it for all the introductions. Let's chat with Jolie. So she is the author of Empowered, Sexy, and Free and creator of the Dare to Prosper Challenge, the largest women's prosperity meditation gathering online, attended by women in more than 50 countries. She specializes in helping women awaken their prosperity consciousness, embody their deepest truth, and reclaim personal freedom and creativity. An intuitive business coach and writer, she's the founder of Prosperity Queendom Inc., an online business training platform for spiritual entrepreneurs. She currently lives in Hawaii, and you can find her at joliedawn.com, JOLIEDAWN.com. Welcome, Jolie.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Kimberly.
I'm so excited. Congrats on your new book. This is just beautiful, empowered, sexy, and free. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? So tell us about your journey to writing this beautiful book.
So the first edition of this book was written when I was 24 years old, and finding my path of awakening, spiritual awakening, personal development, leadership training was a way out of emotional pain. And it was a way out of a really long history that I'd had of feeling disempowered. And when I was 24, I wanted to chronicle this whole journey that I'd been on, and I started to see my life shift around me. And so it's a start to finish guide of all of the tools and practices and breakthroughs that I had in self-discovery and living an empowered, sexy, and free life.
Love it. Love it. I think the title is so great. And so tell us, right, for our listeners, like, what does an empowered, sexy, and free life, like, what does that look like? What does it feel like?
Mm-hmm. Oftentimes when we're wanting more of something in our lives, we're wanting more connection, we're wanting more money, we're wanting more success, like whatever is that outward desire, it's typically that we're wanting more of ourselves in relationship with ourselves. And so empowered, sexy, and free is a journey to go inward and be really honest with ourselves about the things that are holding us back, where their stories of the past are being projected into our future, and where we don't always feel like this is a free will reality, where we don't always feel like we have control over our emotions and our creations. And for me, it was knowing how to create on command, knowing exactly how to create enough money to support myself, knowing exactly how to create loving, deep, intimate friendships and connections, knowing that anything that I desire for myself in this lifetime is possible for me as a function of my intention and my willingness to do the work for it.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful way to look at things, right? Of like, okay, if I do the work, right? And if I really kind of get clear on my vision, then it's possible to manifest it, which is huge. I think that's so, it's something I think that we all want. But, what the hard part is, I feel like, is getting clear on the vision. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Awareness is the first step. It's that connection to what do I want from this world? I look at things in a particular way. I had two parents that didn't quite choose to be here fully. My dad made the very permanent decision to end his life when I was 20. And it was so devastating for my mom that she was in a deep depression. She lived 9 more years, but I watched somebody not really choose to be here and breathing in a human body, but her spirit really wasn't fully there. And so I really got to see what it feels like and looks like to be half in on this life and halfway in on your purpose and halfway in on your joy. And it just didn't feel interesting to me to play this lifetime in that way. I tried it. I had a long history of partying my face off, lots of addiction, lots of numbing and distracting. And I just didn't have coping tools to feel like I was the creator of my reality. And so, yeah, the first step is like, how do we want to play this game? If life were a game, if we were to look at it from that lens, what is the winning of this? How do I win? How do I get the most out of this? And we have to know the rules of the game in order to win, which is we're living in a vibrational reality where anything is possible for our creation through our belief system. And when I started to understand and learn the laws of this reality, like most people on their spiritual path, I came across The Secret and the law of attraction. I was like, oh, I have power over my own energy and how the physical world unfolds around me. So So yeah, it's where I start as a coach and with myself is first crafting the vision. What is that clear focus of what I desire? Because I love this analogy of going on a road trip, going from San Diego to New York City. We have to know where we're going in order to get there. If we're just aimlessly driving through the middle of the country, it's very likely that we would get lost. And so that's the same thing for manifesting our life. It's like, what do we want? How do we want this to feel in our bodies, in our physical world around us? How do I want it in my family? So I'm absolutely with you on that, Kimberly. It starts with vision.
Well, and you talk about the energetic weight, right, that we carry. And I'm curious because one of the things I wanted to ask you is like, to give us an example of how this weight really like shows up in people's lives, how you've seen it show up and how you've been able to work with people to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. I use the analogy where it's always when Michelangelo was sculpting David and he was asked, how did you make this beautiful sculpture? He said, I just took away everything that wasn't the sculpture. It was there. And I just moved all the pieces of stone or whatever the thing is that he was creating from. And the masterpiece was always there. And I believe that where you're starting as a masterpiece. And life roughs us up a little bit. Childhood things, whether it's our parents' divorce or chaos in the home, or even if you had a really loving family. Some people got really lucky and had these really loving, intact, harmonious families. And no matter what the story was, we all pick up pain from our childhood and our past. And so it's a process of getting really honest with yourself, telling the truth, and excavating anything that doesn't serve you, adaptations that don't serve you. For me, I held so much guilt and shame and embarrassment around, being 20 and having my dad leave the planet in that way and thinking that it was something I had to hide. Like something major happened in my family. I was in a culture of family secrets. Like you do not spill family secrets. You do not talk about it. You don't talk about what was going on in his mental health journey. And so I learned a lot of coping strategies of just covering things up and not letting people into my inner world. And what I found now I'm the one with the big old mouth in the family that shares lots of things from stages and books and because it's my journey and it's my story. And I've learned how to do that responsibly while still honoring my family and appreciating my family while still being able to tell the truth.
Yeah, which is a fine line, right?
Exactly.
Well, you talk about too in the book about our emotions kind of being our superpowers. And, you're also talking about numbing, right? Which is how many of us have coped over the past 2 years with regard to the pandemic. And then also just life in general. Feeling emotions is not comfortable. And so I love this, that they're actually considered a superpower to you. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you began to actually find that and believe that as opposed to numbing and trying to avoid them?
Yeah. It's so tempting to want to be the victim to other people and to life. You're in discord with a friend and it's like, she did this thing to me. And our human nature is to cast a role to victim and perpetrator. And what I found is when I was doing that in my life and when I was the victim to everything, being like a sensitive woman and feeling like the victim, feeling like I had been wronged, I never quite got to take responsibility for the role that I was playing. Like recently I had this kind of really big thing happen with a close friend. And it was so tempting to be like, she projected on me and like, I didn't deserve it and I am innocent. But then that doesn't give me the power to identify like, what was the trigger here? And what can I learn from this? If we're willing to see the gift in the pain, if we're willing to see the gift in the trigger, that gives us the opportunity for growth. And as far as I know, and you can tell me if you think about this differently, Kimberly, the main reason why we're doing this whole thing in this human body, living this life experience is for growth. If we miss the growth, we're going to keep getting the same lessons over and over. And what I had with this friend was a major boundary issue. And so instead of going into like, I'm the victim to this, it's like, wow, I can see where I've trained a friend to treat me in a particular way and take a particular amount from me. And that's on me. This is an opportunity to fine tune my boundaries and the way that I stand for reciprocity in this friendship. And I'm not a victim to her. Like, I've exactly trained her what is my standard of being treated in a friendship. And so, yeah, life roughs us up a little bit sometimes, and a lot of it sometimes. And when triggers come through, it will be so tempting to run from the feeling like, I do not want to feel this anger right now. I don't have time for this. I don't want to feel this grief. I don't want to feel this abandonment. I don't want to feel this FOMO, this jealousy, whatever the thing is. The thing to note is we're hardwired to be wild feelers, especially as women. And the invitation is to take space and deep contemplation with our emotions so that we can have personal power. Because for as long as the inner little girl is running the show, or the triggered version of us is running the show, it's very unlikely that we're going to be absolutely in love and inspired by our own lives.
Yeah. And I think the piece around triggers is really important to kind of look at, right? And to notice, like, wow, whenever this happens, or I get this type of email, or I get this type of question, like, this happens, right, to me. Oftentimes the emotional triggers, right, they start with a physical reaction of sorts. And so you have, which I love, a powerful 4-step solution for diffusing, right, these emotional triggers when they show up in our lives, which is, somewhat regularly. And so tell us a little bit about this 4-step solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the invitation in the book is to really create the spaciousness, because life is going to happen so quickly around us. The level at which we are processing data in our lives, from scrolling social media to just the pace of the world, the pace has just picked up rapidly. And unless you're living on a farm and off grid, you probably have felt this. And the 4-step process it's truly an invitation to be slow and gentle with yourself. I believe there's this lost art of contemplation, to really go within and to track your emotions, to feel, to recount a time when you felt this way, and to give yourself the spaciousness to actually process and not bulldoze the same feeling over and over and over again. Like, I can't feel that anger. I can't feel that trigger. It's not convenient, not now. So the 4-step process is an invite to slow down, an invite of deep internal awareness. And I'm really kind of clear and straightforward in the book that it's just not comfortable. It's not comfortable work. I had so much trauma in myself to face, and so much discord and tension from my childhood that I had developed as a woman to be just highly insecure, very sensitive to my world around me, and completely without tools or healthy coping mechanisms to be such a sensitive, highly triggered being in the world. And I wanted to create a system that's really practical for people to be able to pause and reflect and move powerfully through their emotions.
Which is so important, right? Because otherwise we are running from the emotions because they are not pleasant. And yet life is never just like, oh, super smooth and easy, I mean, that's like, we're not really breathing anymore, if it's just like flatlined. And so to be able to work with these, but to work with them with emotional intelligence, I think is so, so important.
Yeah.
So you talked about earlier the law of attraction, and you have some core kind of components of law of attraction in your book. So can you share those with us? And also, in case our listeners, in case anyone isn't familiar with law of attraction, maybe define that also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the law of attraction states that, well, first there's an assumption that it is built on, which is the knowing that we're living in a vibrational reality. So everything is made up of atoms. It's constantly expanding and oscillating and vibrating in every single moment. And a lot of this reality is an illusion. It looks like the desk that I'm on right now is 3D and solid. And upon a closer examination, we'll see that there's actually more space than matter. Mm-hmm. And to live in this vibrational reality is to know that everything is made up of energy. And the way that we create this to go the way that we want it to go, oftentimes it feels like life is out of our grasp and out of our control. We actually do have way more say in the creation process and the way that our lives feels than we give ourselves credit for. And when I started to study reality creation, and I was like, oh, I get what's happening here. I get to create the world around me. I get to say how I feel. I get to envision something and hold it tight to my heart and start to see this happen around me. So the law of attraction states that what we are embodying in our physical energy will show up in the world around us. So in our belief system, if I believe I'm going to get this job and I have my whole energy behind it, you're giving the universe the best possible chance at aligning you with the perfect fit. So believing in I work with a lot of women around their abundance and their money story, believing in abundance, being in a devotional practice of prosperity gives the opportunity for the world around you to manifest. I'm currently living on the island of Kauai. It is the top island in the Hawaiian island chain. And it's extremely, how do I want to say this? You have to really want it to live here. You have to really want it. It's very high demand and very low supply on most everything, including housing. So I came here and I was kind of finding my way and staying with friends, and then also like manifesting, like, I want to find my home here. And I just kept feeling land in my body. Like, this would be a dream come true if I could have a house with and fruit trees. It would just remind me so much of my childhood in rural San Diego. Like, I just want sunshine on my body. I want to be able to tan naked. I just want to be free, feral, wild woman on Kauai. And I'm looking outside my window right now on the most luscious, beautiful, sunny 5 acres of land with about 35 fruit trees. And the back gate of the property opens up to 500 acres of land with waterfalls and walking trails and a baby goat I can hear in the backyard right now. And I was so clear on what I wanted and how I wanted it to feel and how that would serve my mission in the world and how that would fuel my body and my wellness journey. And oftentimes we lose faith in that connection and our ability to manifest because we say that we want things and then they don't happen. I work with a lot of women in business that are like, I want this big launch, or I want this client contract. And then we get our hopes up and then we end up getting discouraged when things don't work out the way we wanted them to. And a lot of times this happens with conflicting beliefs. So if I would have set the goal, like, I want to live on a property with land, I know how absolutely limited that is. And like most people would say pretty much near impossible to manifest that with the demand that's out here right now. If I would have stated that desire, but then allowed a lot of other beliefs, I call these conflicting beliefs, to come into the space, like, it's not possible for me. Somebody who's been on the island longer deserves it. I won't be able to afford it. Whatever the things are, then we're in conflict and the energy is not clear. I'm not clearly stating what I want. And the law of attraction was the first introduction for me to understand what the rules are in this physical game. And the law of assumption is to assume the desire fulfilled. Like, really, if you want to be a successful businesswoman, if you want to be a woman or a being that's integrated in their emotions and living a healthy life and a healthy relationship, start practicing that way of being now. And the true test of faith is being able to receive the thing before it actually shows up.
You know, I love this. It makes me think of a book I just recently read called Personality Isn't Permanent. And I just love this book because it talked about the importance of like really honing in on your future self and setting goals now for that future self, right? Which I think is somewhat similar to what you're discussing. It's like, how do you stay aware and attend to that overarching vision so that you can continue taking steps and move in that direction versus just kind of skirting through things and being like, well, it is what it is. It's like, well, what do you have control over and what can you do to actually bring forth whatever that future vision is for your life?
Yeah, exactly.
And so you talk a bit about prosperity, right? And so give us an example of how we, as listeners or people watching the video, can have more prosperity in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is such a dear one to my heart. So thank you for asking me this question. My dad's choice to end his life back when I was 20 years old was entirely rooted in scarcity, and it was around money. It was at the 2010, 2008-ish economic collapse. It hit our family really hard. He looked at his financial situation. It was not good. And it felt very dismal. And it felt to him like something he couldn't get out of. And so my entry point into being a young woman in this world and going into college was money is life or death. And I had a lot of association with money, and I was angry. I had a lot of anger at the money system because I started to understand what was happening with the housing crisis. I'm like, are you telling me some like greedy, I want to say a swear word, but I won't, some greedy beings out there with their white collar crimes are affecting so many people with just like their absolute selfishness? Like, it is so apparent to me that money is the root of all evil. Look what it's doing to the planet. Look what it's doing to almost all the industries that are killing the planet. And it was just like, I had a lot of intense emotions around this. And like, if we could operate out of a money system, then we would be a healthier species and we would have hope for like sustaining the future of humanity. And I just had so much righteous indignation over this. And then I started my business in my early 20s in entrepreneurship. And I quickly realized hating money while also desiring to have a successful business was not going to go over well. And, you know, I truly believe when the student is ready, the teacher appears, because I was like, I knew enough at that point in my spiritual journey to ask questions. Like, if this isn't working, then what else is possible here? And I can tell that I need some more information in order to be successful at this and be able to support my life and business. And like, what do I actually need? And I just manifested the perfect teacher at the right time. And she taught me about the energetic relationship with money, and to treat money as a lovership in your life. And I was like, she asked me a question: if money were your lover, would money want to have sex with you? And I was like, something about that question just absolutely clicked in my brain, because I could really see, like, using that analogy had me see like what kind of terms I was on with money. It's like, oh, we're definitely not in the bedroom together. We're not even talking. And my relationship with money is like, stay the F away from me. Like, stay over there. I don't want to have to deal with you in my life. I'm going to marry rich. And I just like, let me not have to deal with this whole big beast of this thing called figure out how to financially support myself for the rest of my life. I didn't feel capable of it. And slowly, day after day, I started to develop a relationship with money, and started by like looking at my accounts and like paying my credit card bills on time, and really being aware of the energy I was putting in with money. And so I teach now the largest women's meditation gathering online around money. We just had 4,000 women go through last month, and over 10,000 women have gone through this process with me. And it's a hypnosis meditation experience to rewire the relationship. And it's extraordinarily effective. And all of my work is an invitation to be in a devotional practice with money. Like you come to your spiritual practice in your prayer, like you come to your wellness journey, to the gym, to the kitchen to work out. It's something that is a lifestyle. It is something that you commit to as a lifelong practice. Money is the same thing. There is no, like, I don't know any of my successful friends, or just any of my friends, who make it to a certain level of income and they're like, great, I reached financial freedom. I can check out from this. Like, I don't have to worry about it. And I think we have this thing in our heads of like, once I get to a certain level, then I don't have to worry about it anymore. And that's just, the needle keeps being moved. Your standards and your desires keep being moved. And so I feel like there's so much disempowerment around money because we don't, a lot of times it's just rooted in not feeling worthy. I had to feel worthy first. And I had to practice being a woman who took full responsibility with her money.
Well, congratulations on that online event. That sounds amazing. So Jolie, like, two last questions for you. One is, what would you say is the biggest thing you hope people will take away from your book? I know it's a big question.
I love it. I love the big question. Thank you. I hope that she would take away the sensation that it's all so possible for her to feel good, to go to sleep easily at night, to feel deep love and connection with her friends, to feel on purpose in this world. Like, we have such a precious gift in this lifetime of being in a human body with a sovereign soul with free will. And it is absolutely precious. And I know oftentimes it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a curse to be here. And I want her to know that she can have it exactly her way, exactly the way that she likes it. And she has so much more influence around how the external world unfolds around her than she could ever possibly imagine.
Love it. And my last question for you, Jolie's, the name of this podcast is Tranquility du Jour. So how do you find tranquility in your everyday? And I do hear the baby goat, I think, squealing in the background.
That was a rooster.
Oh, yes. It was a rooster. Okay.
I haven't quite figured out how to not have the whole farm show up on my microphone yet, but it's part of the lifestyle of living. So tranquility for me is relationship with myself. And as somebody who's been prone to anxiety in her life, and that's, I think, the number one thing that threatens my tranquility, the practices that I have to take care of me and be the secure parent for my inner child. And it's the way that I take care of myself in life. It's the way that I show up for this. And it's the way that I truly choose to live with my whole heart and being.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jolie, for being with us today and for sharing your beautiful new book. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Those are such kind words. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
In the show notes, you'll find a link to her book, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So be sure to check those out if you would like to connect with Jolie. And then also a gentle reminder to check out my 6 books and planner. Also, follow along on Instagram and YouTube. And then shop seasonless, vegan, locally made, eco-friendly fashion, TDJ by Kimberly. And if you have a moment to share a review on Apple Podcasts, would be so grateful, Amazon or Goodreads. So I wanted to share with you a recent review that came through on Tranquility du Jour. And this is from Jessica. So she says, I enjoy Ms. Wilson's beautiful podcast. It is a few moments of calm and tranquility in my day or week. Her podcast on our California trip in 2021 was one of my favorites. I decided to do a trip up the Northern California coast last summer based on her recommendations with my family, and we had one of the best trips of our lives so far. Her podcast stays true to her vision with each episode. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much for taking the time to write a review. I'm so grateful. And if you have a moment to head on over and do so, I would be very delighted. It's funny having been doing these for 17 years. It's just interesting to see like the journey and the evolution together and with regard to topics and with listeners. So thank you all for being here. And I wish you a delicious, delightful week ahead. And thank you for being part of the Tranquility du Jour community.